Yeah, that's right. Here we are again. Welcome, everybody. Uh, Ponda is here. So, I'm just a weird dude holding my stuffed Ponda. Hello. So, short of actual blunders, lack of faith in one's position is the chief cause of defeat. Now, that's a good advice. That's a good advice. So, don't forget to practice it. Practice. Grammar Nazi. How are you? Hey, Acerbeat, how are you today? Um, all right, guys. So we have our analysis stream Thursdays, and that's what today is. It's Thursday, so we've got a game from Mr. Slowhand, Herman Pilnick, Germantine. He's a Germantine against Jeffem Geller. Asterbait versus Reebok, no relation to Reebok. Nefidov Ukunad, Sun Prism against God Shankar. And finally, there's Mule Skinner game against Castellanos, who's a grandmaster from an open tournament in Spain. All right. So, lots of good stuff to go over. What's up, Asterbait? What's up with you? Gather round. I've got some kind of like water in my ear or something. It's really weird. I hate when that happens. It like won't go away. Okay, so Asterbait is playing white. Remember the days when you were 1700? Now you're 1564. Boom, Mister Y again. Donated $49.99. Now for $2,049.99, you can send an international master to the World Senior. Mr. Y again. Why again what? My question is, why again what? Thank you, Mr. Y again. $49.99. Super donation. That's an hour of lessons. We've got Herman Pilnick versus Jeffem Geller from Geller's great book. We've got Asterbait to warm up and a bunch of other games. I'm sure some other people will stop by and donate their games. I was checking out the World Senior list again today for the first time. I didn't see any super notable names, but it's filling out. There's so many players. It's a couple hundred players in my World Senior. I think it feels like it's more. I don't know. I forget the count. But I don't think it was like. I don't feel like there's more than 200 in my section. Like I don't think there was that many. It feels like it's the biggest field so far. Maybe the location is accessible and it's in Italy. It's warm. All right, so that's in October. Mr. Slow just donated. Sorry, Mr. Y again just donated $49.99 to bring us up to $2,049.99. So we've got 40 days to go. I just want to caution everyone that actually 37 days to go. I want to caution. I was just approximating, but I want to caution everyone that in 2 weeks from today, I am flying to the United States. I'll be in Boston area for 2 weeks, so I'll be staying in like a motel. My internet might not be great, so I don't know that I'm guaranteed to do any streams. We'll see how my Wi-Fi is, or whatever. May or may not stream while I'm there in the States, depending on the Holiday Inn internet. But if we keep in mind that I'll be gone for 2 weeks, we have less than a month left, basically like 3 weeks. All right, what's that? What is that? Twitch TV Slachi? Submitted not long ago. I went through the archive. The archives. They still let you in the archives. All right. Thank you guys for donating. Arsenal fan, thanks for being a subscriber. Why again? So, all right. Arsenal fan. I forget that my keyboard works on this computer, and I can actually type someone's name in, and I don't have to use the on-screen keyboard. Arsenal fan Rich. Are you in fact allowed to send people messages? Holy shit. That's unbelievable. The library pool. Now, what do you prefer, the pool library or the library pool? All right, copy, learn, study. Where were we? Here. I'd rather go to the library pool than the pool library. Underwater library. All right, here we go. So that's Richard Smith. Richard the band. How are the boys in the band? There's the village. One of my favorite horror flicks of all time. Of course, the iconic The Village of the Damned. With those freaky alien children from like the British village. But Arsenal, they're doing a reprise with the Village of the Band. The Village of the Band. Alright. You haven't seen The Village of the Band? That's an old movie with these freaky children. But I think it was a famous... It was a famous story. I don't remember who wrote it. They tried to do a remake of it. I don't know how successful that was. Well, it might remind one of The Twilight Zone, but it's like a full movie. Yeah, Village of the Damned. It's like all these like women in the village become pregnant from like some alien entity, and then all these like half alien children are like spawned and stuff. It's really freaky. All right, anyway, great movie. Freaky. But we're going to start with Astrobate versus Reebok. And Astrobate is white. So Reebok, I never owned a Reebok, but very popular. That's British too. Reeboks are British? I don't remember. The remake is useless, of course. Alright, so... But we're going to do our own Village of the Band. Just the pool library reminded me of that. Okay, so knight f3, d5, c4, and now obviously the critical continuation is d4, but that's not everybody's cup of tea. Well, okay, obviously Slav and the Queen's Gambit declined are the best ways to go. Ready, whatever, ready. After e6, Slav is very solid. Just ask Nafidov. But this is not a good move. This means you don't support your center. So, inconsistent. He establishes center and then doesn't respond when the enemy attacks it. Now, Astrobate, you fucked up here. You have to take on d5. This is a golden opportunity. You were just moving too fast, and so you automatically went e3 now. I think the problem is Astrobate's like last two opponents. His last several opponents have like taken on c4, so he's probably at this point he's like pre-moving e3. I know, c takes d5, c6. There's probably a study on that on Lichess. Yeah. Hey, it's Miro played that against us, no? It's a Smith Mora in reverse. Nothing like the Smith Mora in reverse, sort of. Well, I mean, white has d4, which is better. But, this is not really a Smith Mora in reverse. Yeah, not good. Looks like something my teammate would play. So, what was I going to say now? You distracted me. Oh, I noticed, I was looking at the list of teams for my team championship, and this slimy cheater, Juhas Christoph, is back again. I mean, dude, do you have no self-respect? I mean, the guy was caught red-handed by grandmasters and arbiters cheating, got banned from the Hungarian Chess Federation for like 2 or 3 years, and now he has the audacity to come back, and he's not playing for like a different team in the second division. Fuck, man. I mean, I would just. How could you show your face? Like, so he's like the top board for one of the other teams. It's like, dude, that's just disgusting. What are these people? What is wrong with people, you know? No, it's the real cheater, the actual cheater, not the brother of the cheater. He has brothers. This is the actual cheater himself. He's like 2478. I am. Even though like probably 100 rating points is like cheater points, he slowly went up and up and up and up till he almost got to GM. Except, he's never like made a GM norm as far as I know. It's ridiculous. The Hungarian Chess Federation fucked up though. They never reported him to FIDE. I think like they didn't get him. Yeah, he was a toilet guy, another toilet guy, a Hungarian toilet guy. They caught him red-handed, and he was cheating in Austria and cheating here too. But anyway, I just randomly brought it up because Arsenal likes to talk about cheating. All right, anyway, back to the subject. So knight f6 is a very bad move. You have to take on d5, destroying the center. I tend to skip around and start talking about random stuff sometimes, especially when I get started. Just random stuff pops in my head like this. They're always cheating in the toilet. What is it with the toilet? Anyway, okay, e3. Yeah, the Shevchenko system. He didn't leave a note for the cleaners in the toilet, though. He's a weird guy anyway. Really weird guy. He was on some Hungarian reality TV show at one point. Okay, e3, b6. Very strange move. So black doesn't support the center. And now b6. Asterbate doesn't take on d5. I wonder why you're not taking on d5 here. It's a good move. At this point, though, black would possibly think about playing maybe bishop b7. Then you can do like check, interfere with his development. I still think you should take on d5. There's no question. This is an interesting move, though. Queen a4 check may not be bad here. You could induce black to make an awkward move. Like, these type of ideas do exist. In fact, in that type of position where you do c takes d, my former teammate did something weird like g6 in this game against Eperieshi, and poor Eperieshi was like 80, and he didn't try to take advantage of it or something. But it looks like white might be able to try, like, say, queen a4 check in some position. I think this might not be a bad move. So these queen a4 checks can often come in. This is not such a bad move here. I think normally moving the queen out to the side of the board is almost always bad in the early stages, but I think here Asterbate is kind of justified, because what are black's options? Knight d7? Maybe knight d7. Bishop d7, clearly the bishop no longer will go to fianchetto. c6 is, you still have c takes d there, and your queen might even be, it might even be like developed. So black plays bishop d7. Now you have a choice. between b3 and c2. And I think b3, makes more sense because you put pressure on d5, but is there any drown side? Like, what is the drown side to b3? Standard modern Tartakover move anyway. Well, this is no Tartakover. I mean, honestly, black, hasn't even played e6, so I wouldn't call it really. I mean, the point is, like, oftentimes when you play b3 or b6, you intend to develop your bishop on b7. I realize what you're saying, like in the Tartakover Queen's Gambit, sometimes the bishop might go back to c8, but this is kind of a different type of position. It may not be that bad. Yeah, it may not be that bad. The truth is, it probably is black's best move because it's the most forcing. If c6, then c takes d5. Black probably takes with the knight, and white has a better position for sure. Knight d7 needs to be considered, though. If knight d7, pawn takes d5, and knight takes d5, do we have a tactic here with queen c6? This is a good question. And how bad is this? Say, here takes knight c2 check, king d1. I mean, white's up material. Essentially, because that knight is likely to get trapped. So, I don't know. But anyway, okay, bishop d7 is fine. Why not b3? Putting pressure on d5. The queen is more exposed, but it puts direct pressure on the d5 square. After b6, the bishop doesn't belong in d7. That's... Mr. Slow is explaining... Well, Mr. Slow has phrased what I was trying to say in a more simple way, Right. When you play b6, you don't want to put your bishop on d7. It happens sometimes in the Queen's Indian, with white even, in the bishop a6 Queen's Indian. As long as you go b3 and then black goes bishop b4 check, you have to go like bishop, d2, instead of going to d2 where you intended to go. I mean, to d2 instead of b2 where you intended to go. But anyway, okay, we're splitting atoms here. Big decision, but this puts more pressure on d5. So it could be attacked, but I trust queen b3 better. The good news with queen c2 is that you don't inhibit your b pawn, and the queen is less exposed here. So I think either move is acceptable. Black plays e6 now, sensationally defending his strong point on d5. All right, now Astrobate now plays a very Modesto, California, a very modest move, bishop e2. But I think we want to consider, b3, the most dynamic plan here, getting ourselves to that long diagonal. Other moves include knight e5 to exploit said bishop on d7. Anybody? What do you think? I think this move is really worth considering. We take out the light square bishop. It costs time, though. It costs time. I respectfully agree to disagree. Bishop e2, a little bit too tame. And now black with horrifying h6. Castles, and now bishop c6. Recycling. Yeah, I know, knight e5 is development not a thing anymore. No, it's a typical... I agree. It's a typical moment where white has a chance here to grab the bishop pair, and it's worth considering. If we go for this bishop, we have to sacrifice some development. It's a trade-off, right? That's the thing. It's a trade-off. Probably you're right, Mr. Slow. It's probably not worth it. And we could also argue that the bishop itself is misplaced at d7. Might be another reason not to go after it, because it itself is misplaced. Probably you're right. e6, bishop e2, h6, castles. Now bishop c6, again, wasting time. Now Asterbate plays knight e5, but I think this is definitely a mistake based on what I was just talking about. You know, this is misplaced. We're only chasing it where it wants to go with knight e5. So I think Asterbate here did the wrong thing. He should just go back to, you know, square one with standard development. b3, bishop b2. It's unclear where the knight wants to go in this type of scenario. Yes, its best square is c3, but oftentimes it might be, you know, going to d2 so as not to obstruct the bishop on b2. Another. It also depends on white intends to play d3 or d4 in the future. A lot of options. But I don't like this. You're chasing him back where he wants to go. Here. You have takes, bishop b5 check. This could be an issue. What is going on here with bishop e5 check? How does black handle this? So if you take with a knight, you have a problem. If you take with the bishop, you have tempi at least. And if you take with the pawn, we have the check again. And then on knight d7, yeah, what does black play now? Can he try some kind of tactical trick? Like taking here? No. This looks very problematic for black. He would have to play knight d7. Mr. Coffee type position we're looking at now. Mr. Coffee came at the right time. It's a Mr. Coffee setup. Anything with like e3 is a Mr. Coffee specialty. So knight e5, bishop b7. Asterbate, for the third time in this game, you failed to play c takes d when it looks very strong. I just wonder if that's a hole in Asterbate's game. Why is he continuously not playing this move? We had 3 opportunities to play it when it's very strong. Maybe he misses the power of this move. Check. Looks really nice. Well, looking nice doesn't cut it. You know, I've got a concrete move that's much more forcing. So why do I want to look at bishop f3 when this move is much more forcing? I think we look at this first. We're taking a pawn and black doesn't have an answer. He doesn't seem to have an answer. I mean, what do you want him to play, man? Queen takes d5, bishop f3. You said it yourself. He has a miracle? No, c7 is hanging. Oh my god. Doesn't look good for black, but we might have to settle for d4. Queen c7, bishop d6. No, queen c7. I don't think even an Arsenal fan can really defend this argument. We're threatening queen takes f7 now. Maybe bishop e7. Black's in trouble. It looks like CD is almost winning on the spot. But the computer comes up with a defense. And okay, this makes sense. This is the one line we didn't look at. Take, check, and knight on f d7. Now, I thought, I'm not going to say this because it's so backward and weird, but it does legit look like black's only defense, you know. And I was going to suggest this sort of primitive queen f5. There's also entertaining moves like knight to g6, for example. Azerbaijan would probably get carried away and do something like this and lose. But black might survive. All right, now the second suggestion was Azerbaijan's move. What's wrong with bishop f3? Well, it also speaks to Mr. Slow's thing about time. We're moving the same piece twice. This is Azerbaijan's biggest weakness. He often moves the same piece twice. Here it's justified, but it's not the most efficient move. So black has a little bit of time to catch up now. Bishop d6, d4, and now black should be alive now. H6 doesn't help his case, by the way, because if not h6, then I would be more happy to play your knight e4. But oftentimes you try to play f6, the knight g6 becomes a weakness. I don't think that h6 really helps black's position here. So d4, a5. What is that about? He wants to play knight a6. So a5, kind of a weird move. I would think black's okay, to castle. Why not castle here with black? In fact, I mean, the standard setup would be something like knight c3, a6 to stop the knight from coming to b5. You don't want the knight to come to b5. Whereas a5 just weakens the b5 square. Mark Ginsburg would have like a heart attack. When I played a4, he freaked out. And again, knight c3, and now, yeah, heading for the b5 square. So black should consider like the c6 type of thing, right? c6. Normal thing to do. Prevent knight b5. But instead, he plays the worst move ever. The worst move ever. What is the worst move ever here? Rook a7. Worst move ever. Mr. Azerbaijan, please put your knight on b5. And he obliges. Rook a6. Black's idea was to defend the bishop on b7, but there was no need to do that. And now Azerbaijan cashes in. The gray hair, the blue hair, what do you call them? Blue hairs, the old ladies at the casino playing like slot machines. They get one lucky pull and they're cashing in their chips. We're cashing in our chips for d6 bishop now. So what's our follow-up when we take this d6 bishop? I know he must want to play like knight to g6, but I don't see that working in any lines. So when you take on d6, the problem is that he takes with the pawn. And your knight is hit, so the knight has to move. And you could play d3. I mean, d3 looks like the sensible thing to do. The good news is that this can be answered by bishop takes b7. And our knight is kind of centralized with ideas of knight f4. But I don't think this is all that bad for black. But I don't know if Azerbaijan should have gone into this or not. So after knight b5 here, you could wait and keep the tension and play something like b3. It's an option. There's also c takes d. Again, c takes d. This move is a total possibility. So he takes, and now the knight goes to g4. But this is kind of a weird square. I don't know about this. We end up with our bishop on a sort of random square on g4. And it's unprotected. That's not good, here. I don't like knight g4, bishop g4, queen g5 type stuff with threats against our g2 pawn. I don't understand why black didn't castle before, but anyway. Alright, stupid question. White plays knight to g4, and now black just plays a random move. Rook a7 was really random. This is really, really super random. But if he takes on g4, we have to take back. And now black has ideas based on queen g5. Wouldn't work right away because of, I guess, bishop f3. But you could play d takes e first with the idea of queen g5. So takes, queen g5, threatening this. And white has to be a little bit careful. So, what's the computer say? White has got a sneaky move here, but white is slightly better. You could play even the simple f3. Alright, so knight g4 wasn't so bad, Astrobate. You're still slightly better. But black makes a really strange move. I mean, queen c7, check. His queen c7 move, I don't really understand why he did that. So takes, check, takes. Now I expected you to play b3. b3, constructive move syndrome. You need to get some constructive move syndrome. b3, develop, develop, develop. Develop, develop, develop. Combative move syndrome. This is not constructive move syndrome, it's combative move syndrome. And probably a good idea. If black plays that, it's okay. He's not really threatening anything, except maybe rook c6. But remember, black's king is still on the diagonal. This still could be relevant. I agree. b5 looks like a good try. If b3. So what else can we do? We could try other means. Okay. Simpler moves like queen e2. You could just play bishop d2. You still have your b5 idea. I don't like black's position, but I think it might not be that bad. He has a lot of weaknesses. So this is a little bit too conservative, and I think that black is, going to be tempted to try to get something going on here. We can play g3. We got to watch the diagonal. We probably need to play f3. So rook g8, I would say f3. We have an immunity on the dark squares. And this remains very serious threat with the black king in the center of the board. So rook g8 may not be so hot. Black plays knight d7, developing a piece. Thank God. Oh. Wow. So this is what Astrobate was doing. He missed, the opponent missed, I missed it. We were so naively thinking that I don't know, bishop e2 was just a passive defense, but he's threatening, queen h7 right away, true. He's threatening c5. The problem with c5 is that it may not really be a very, lasting threat. It might actually be a mistake. So I still think I support the idea of developing here. I still support the idea of b3. But, or bishop d2 or something like that. He goes with c5, but the problem is now when the rook moves, what are we going to do? Now you're pinned, and your c-pawn is attacked 16 times. So how do you protect this now? You have a problem. Now you're actually going to lose a pawn. And c5 is not supported, so I think the c5 has got to be an error. Astrobate just lunged forward with this one move threat. But, you should play something safe. Bishop d2 takes, queen takes c4, queen takes c4, bishop takes c4, rook, I don't know, a8. And white is slightly better. That's probably what we should settle for here. Instead, c5, and white's pawn ends up overextended. Now, I think that I don't really see a concrete threat for white. And black needs to maybe get a little bit brave here. It's possible that Asterbay has compensation. I mean, takes. But black has queen takes c5. We don't want to trade queens. B takes c5 as well. Pawn going a pawn up. For the two bishops, it looks like a Blumenfeld or something. I mean, this isn't clear. I mean, can't really say who's better. Black's up a pawn but has a bad structure. Shaky pawns. White has the two bishops. I think that white has compensation, probably. It's interesting what Asteroid's opponent did, though. He tried to trade what might be a bad bishop, and this strategically isn't a bad exchange. It leaves white with like a bad dark square bishop against a knight in a lot of cases. But I do think that he should probably go for the material here. Take, and then, we'll see what happens. So after bishop a6, there is this possibility of c6. Black's actually lucky that he has even like one kind of reasonable square for that knight on f8. Because b8 is very bad. Like after c6, knight b8, a4. I imagine black is just lost. It's probably just lost. I don't know. I mean, king e7, bishop d2, rook c8, rook f c1. I don't think black's gonna last here. It's probably lost. But he could play knight f8. At least the knight has somewhere to go, where it can go, recycle back to g6 and back to e7. Is c6 after all the best option? Maybe. Maybe it is. And maybe Asterbay's lucky to even have that, because the guy should have taken the pawn. He plays it a different way. You could obviously take on a6 and play queen e2. That's what he did. He played the safe move. This still might be the best move. Wait a minute. It's not working here. Oh. We have bishop takes b5. What are we talking about? This doesn't work. Sorry, guys. So bishop a6, c6 doesn't work. He just takes here. Takes with check. No, this is not clear. This isn't really an option. Sorry, c6 is no good. If c6, bishop takes b5, white is down a pawn. After rook a8, c6. Right, okay. So bishop a6, take, here, queen b7. Rook a8, probably best. And I don't think this is the position you're talking about. Black's going to be up a pawn here. White probably has compensation, but he's not better. So I don't think the thing with c6 works. This just doesn't work. So he had to do this. And now this move looks reasonable, getting out of the pin. And then, and now queen b7 is a tactical blunder. So here black shows his tactical prowess. I think there was a ton of compensation for that pawn. No, it's not necessary. This is just white is better. But black has to be very, very careful. But rook a8. Yeah, he just misses a simple tactic now, the fork. And it's over. Bishop a6, e4. There's all sorts of crazy ideas. Maybe, for example, plausible move. I would take it. I mean, black's position looks like a Sicilian. You know, it doesn't look that bad. The question is, after queen takes queen e2, if he plays rook e8, like, how big is white's advantage here? You know, maybe e4 now. You could play e4 now, for example. It still involves sacrificing a pawn. Takes, queen takes e4, d5, queen somewhere. Unclear if we have enough compensation for the pawn or not. It's a question of how much risk you want to take, you know. Does white have a Capablanca-esque slight advantage in the first place? You know, is Capablanca going to play that? Probably not, you know. It depends on who you are. Rook a8 is the best move. So see, like, the engine goes for the very exciting c takes d6, queen takes d6, bishop d2. It looks like a Slav exchange, right? Plus 1.7. This is a huge advantage, though, for white. There's this. The knight has nowhere to go. Yeah, in the hands of a tactical player, I mean, this is a very, very unpleasant position for black, with like 0 winning chances. But, you know, for a club player, I don't know, and even myself, I would be reluctant also to choose this line. I would prefer to find something more dynamic. But I don't know how many options we have. You know, after rook a8, we kind of have to take. And now, you know, there's nothing more exciting than really bishop d2. e4 risks your structure. You know, sacking a pawn like this. Let's see. This is possible. So I said takes. Oh, you have an in-between move there. This is interesting. You have an in-between move. If you play e4, you have an in-between move here. D takes e4, c takes d6, queen d6, queen takes e4, and now queen d5. Now check this out. Arsenal fans going to love this. Another endgame. Another technical endgame with a perfect structure. You know, but sometimes we just have to take the hand that we're dealt, Arsenal fan. We can't always like play like Tal every game. I mean, and that's part of being a good player, you know. Queen e2, queen b7, and then we just win. So that's enough of this game. He gave up. His opponent tactically blundered, and he's lost. Still, it was a very neat game by Asterbate. Now, bishop takes d6 check. Nice shot, by the way. Very nice shot. Cleanly winning. Or is it? Well, no, he's giving the piece back. Check this out. Check here, takes here, and then a brutal attack. So Asterbate's opponent now has to find king to a different square. It's lost, though. You know, he's totally lost. He gave back the piece, but he's crushing him. What about king b7? There's no defense. King d7, queen f8. King b7, queen f8. King b7, queen f8. Jesus, everything falls. Like, this whole structure falls apart. It was a pretty good, like, piece. It's a pretty good piece return sacrifice by Asterbate. I think he might have missed it, though. It may be an accident. You know, he maybe forgot that when black takes here, check, he goes back and defends his rook. But this is a totally winning position. Equal material. Safe king, perfect structure. Good job, Asterbate. Nicely done. Did you miss a mate there? No mates. All right. He just ate all the pawns. Now here you want to play rook c8. There is a final trick though. If you go this route, right? Takes with back rank mate. That would get really tricky. Ouch. So maybe it's better not to do that. We don't want to give black that last trick. He finally just won the queen. Actually, it's mate in one now. Alright. Anyway, enough of that. It didn't deserve an hour analysis. What's up? WJ, if you're early. King b7, king a6. That's what I thought. Where did we go there? Yeah, so king b7, trying to go up to a6. If queen f8, the king hides up here. We have b4. So queen b8, queen takes f7, check. Maybe king a8. I don't know. Anytime you go up to a6, this b4 jams in your rook. You end up with a rook sandwich. That's not good. All right, guys, let's move on. So we got Herman Pilnik versus Yefim Geller. Pilnik, German master, who originally born in 1914 in Stuttgart, passed away in 1981 in Caracas, which is in Venezuela, obviously. He was a German-born Argentine chess player. So he immigrated to Argentina. What an original idea. All right, so Herman Pilnik, famous for the D3 variation of the Ruy Lopez. Playing D3, the quiet D3 in the mainline Ruy Lopez, the so-called Pilnik variation. And Geller is black, and this was played... Okay, Göteborg. Was this Olympiad? No, it was interzonal. Okay, 1955 interzonal tournament. Wow, so this is very early for... Kind of early for Geller. Hey, my family went from Germany to Argentina for no particular reason at all. That's what they all say. And they're still finding, like, paintings and stuff. What was it last week? They found some kind of Nazi looted art worth, like, a fortune. It was in some kind of property listing. They traced it. They left the art, a looted painting, and some kind of property listing, I think, in Argentina. All right. So Pilnik is white, Geller is black. We should look from black's perspective. All right. So Pilnik plays e4. I don't really know much about Pilnik as a player. He wasn't a super strong player. Don't think he was a GM. Could have been. Let's see. Somebody look it up. I don't think he was a grandmaster. Could have been. It's not impossible. All right, now I'm curious. Somebody will look it up for us. Can you check if Pilnik was a GM? I'm guessing he was probably not. He was, Arsenal fan says. Okay. Maybe he was. So e4, c5, knight f3. If Arsenal says yes, I'm 85% convinced. He played 5 Olympiads for Argentina. Knight f3, knight c6. If you win an interzonal, by the way, you automatically become a grandmaster. I think that's... Isn't that what Fischer did? So... Wow, he played in 1956 candidates. So this is 1955. d4, c takes d4, knight takes d4, knight f6, knight c3, d6, and now Pilnik. Okay, so we're playing a classical Sicilian for Geller. This is not so common. So Fischer never made GM norms. He got it for interzonal. I don't recall Geller playing classical Sicilian. Unfortunately, we're not going to see anything too interesting in this opening because White doesn't play the critical Richie Rouser. You know, the most interesting move, of course, is bishop g5. And other than that, no, everything else is like secondary. I mean, this is the only move that's really acid test. There are other moves, there are tons of moves that are playable, but I mean, this is the one, the main important move. We'd like to see what Geller would have done against bishop g5, but maybe that's the point. You know, maybe Geller is exploiting his opponent. If he knows he doesn't play bishop g5, he's not, you know, he's like not dangerous. We can play this move order if, especially, they don't play the Richter Rouser. It's a good way to get like the dragon or something, but this wasn't Geller's plan. So now bishop e2 and he plays e5. This is the Boleslavsky variation. I never played this with black because it always seemed to me that it was kind of inflexible. I like playing dragon, especially against bishop e2. I mean, I feel like if white isn't going to play the Yugoslav attack, the dragon is good. You know, why? The only problem with the dragon Sicilian is the Yugoslav attack. If not, then we should play the dragon every time. But okay, it's not so simple. There are some playable lines for white. But, you know, you're playing... Okay, Pilnik is a strong player. It's interzonal. But I don't think he's on a level with Geller. You want to win, I think, of g6. After bishop e2, there's obviously the Scheveningen. Basically, e6, g6, or e5. That's all you got. You know, so e5. Now, white typically goes to b3. What is the difference between Boleslavsky and the Sveshkov? Well, there's no knight going to b5. There's no knight b5. No knight b5, none of this stuff. Yeah, I don't know if it's better. I mean, I think that the problem with black a lot of times is this knight on c6 again. It's like a worse Najdorf, it feels like in lots of cases, because you interfere with your c-file play. The knight interferes with the c-file play, and the knight interferes with the pressure on e4. So I find it's harder to put pressure on white's e4 pawn in the Boleslavsky as opposed to, like, let's say, the Najdorf or something. The issue is this knight on c6. Where does it go? And oftentimes it goes to like a5 or b4. Maybe it can try to help black support d5. 2287. So e5, knight b3 now. It's interesting here. I'm a little bit surprised by this. I think 2287. I'm a little surprised by this. Knight f3 is actually most played move in this position. That I wouldn't have expected. Traditional move is knight b3. And I wouldn't think the Boleslavsky is played that often. This isn't a lot of games, by the way. I mean, 2,500 games altogether where this position is played at the master level is not a lot of games. But it's still statistically, you know, significant that white has played knight f3 60% of the time compared to knight b3 40% of the time. That's a pretty big difference. And white's score is also much better after knight f3. There is an idea to go here and go to f5 possibly. And you know, and there is the classic advice that the knight on knight 3 is always badly placed. But this is the traditional move. And definitely at that time when this game was played in 1955, wasn't there like a famous Fischer-Reshevsky game or something? I don't remember. All right. So knight b3, that was really the number one move at that time. I don't think that people commonly played knight f3. This is more of a modern idea, blocking the f-pawn. Obviously the knight can come back, you know, to d2, to c4 to circulate like that, or go to h4. No, that's the dragon. That's a dragon game. But there was another Fischer-Reshevsky game where Fischer ground him down. He ground him down in like an end game. I think. Where he ground Reshevsky down in an endgame. I had the feeling it was a Boleslavsky, but I might be confusing it with something else. Some kind of d5 square squeeze. It is something to do with the d5 square, just being under white's control, like for the whole game into the end game. And so Fischer played Reshevsky a lot, no doubt, you know. All right, knight b3, bishop e7, castle, bishop e3. You know, and it's very surprising how good black's score is in this position. Can somebody explain to me why black's score is so good? 39% wins for black. We gotta ask the question here. Why? Is it the same reason that the Mora Gambit has like a terrible score for white? Black shouldn't have like a winning score at the mastered level in this position. It should probably be about equal. But black has instead like a massively winning score. So we turn on the engine, it's going to say white is equal or 0.1 advantage to white. See? How the fuck does black have a plus score of such a margin? 39 to 19. It's not a Najdorf Arsenal fan. The knight's on the wrong square. The answer has to be that nobody fucking plays this with white. You know, that's the problem. The reason why black's score is so good is because no good players play the white side. You can see you can single out a couple of examples. One game where Firouzja lost, or one with black or something. But if you go down the line, you'll just see like nobody. The bottom line is like nobody plays. No good players play bishop e2 against the classical Sicilian. That's why the score is so bad. E5, like this wins by force? Absolutely not. You know, knight b3, bishop e7, castle, bishop e3. And now the best move is a5, and that's a modern move. But the only reason why black's score is so good is because good players don't play this with white. So I find actually to be very drawish in my practice. It's very likely if you get in d5, the resulting position could be kind of petering out, relatively level sort of endgame. But okay, he plays bishop e6 first. This is a famous move now, which I think again was played in Reshevsky's game that I was remembering. Bishop f3. I have at least one game. You know, this move is an interesting move because it's kind of unusual. It's not typical to put the bishop where you're like X-raying control, like through the pawn, because the bishop itself is sort of blocked by its own pawns. So I think this is a unique type of position. But if we go back a minute, it looks like this is a major statistical improvement with the a5. Now, how big a deal is it? If we let Stockfish run all night, you know, it might prefer a5, but what's the big deal with a5? This is actually getting significant now. Stockfish thinks white is better by 0.3. So the lesson is that no one knows how to play the white side of the Boleslavsky. It's not exciting. No one cares about it. They don't play it. A5, knight d2. So see, this seems to be a very important position. Look at the score. Everyone reacts automatically with a4, and then they get in trouble. So knight to d2, voluntarily retreating your knight. Very important move. And if you don't know that, you're in trouble. So, it's possible that Geller even knew this back in 1955. Possible he actually even knew this. I mean, he chose to play bishop e6, a much more principled move, rather than a5. And now bishop f3. And now a5. But as I mentioned earlier, this idea to solve the knight on c6 problem is a common motif. Trading pieces frees black up a little bit. You have knight to c4, so white has to take. But this is much more combative. If you want to draw, this move is fine. If you want to win, a5 is much more combative. So now, can white still do the same thing with like knight d2? Only played in one game. I think now it's a different scenario. Yeah, well, the problem is, Arsenal fan, that you can play the classical Sicilian, but only like 1 in 10 opponents will play bishop e2. So it's not like you can play the Boleslavsky against everything. You can play the black side of the Boleslavsky maybe 1 in 10 games where you get an open Sicilian. It's fine, but it doesn't happen that often. At the club level, a little bit more. You will get more than at the master level. a5, knight d5 best, according to the Opening Explorer. And now we have the typical Najdorf kind of situation where you can take with a knight or the bishop. Of course, in this case now, the knight on c6, again, inconveniently placed. Because it's going to get hit by the pawn on d5. So do you give up the bishop or do you give up the knight? You can't give up the knight because it's a fork. So he has to take with the bishop or else just not take. You can play a4 apparently. This was played by Wolf, one of the Wolf brothers, and van der Velde. But the main move is bishop takes d5. Okay, so this is interesting, right? Now we get a typical motif from the Najdorf, where we're giving up the light square bishop for the knight. And the idea would be, can we trade these dark square bishops? I think I remember Uwe, right? Amateur becomes master. Black, the master, destroying the amateur with white. Well, I'm telling you that if we get this standard situation where we can trade our bad bishop for white's good bishop, we get the model dark square bind type thing. And I have a feeling that's going to happen here. Look at the top 5 games. Lebojevic drew against a strong player. Liquiang beat a 2300. Spassky drew with white. Nibar beat a 2300. And Eugenia Torre beat a 2300. So white has 1 out of 5, but because white was always the weaker players in almost all cases. Spassky and Lebojevic drew, everyone else lost. So even this position is probably like only a tiny bit better or equal. But white's starting to get into the type of situation where the white square bishop becomes a bad piece. The computer would never lose with white here. There's no way you're beating an engine with the black pieces in this position, although that's true with most positions, but still. Do we go knight b8, knight a7, knight b4? So knight b8. So it looks like knight b4 is the more common move, but it walks right into c3. That is kind of weird. You go here, then you have to go back to a6, and then maybe try to blockade the c5 square with the other knight. This isn't so simple. Of course, black might be threatening to play a4, I don't know. a4, a3, for example. But again, every game you see the same theme. It's like black only wins because they're the stronger player. Stronger player, stronger player, stronger player. They're not winning because the opening is necessarily bad for white. But knight b8 anyway, I think a very natural move by by Geller, and now white plays c4. But the thing is, this what I call the trash compactor, that's great if you can get it. But if you can't get it, you're going to get fixed on the light squares. And too many light square pawns makes Jack a dull boy. So if this bishop, I'm just seeing, light square, light square, light square, light square. A lot of pawns ending up on white squares with a white square bishop. Black somehow managing to engineer an exchange of dark square bishops. And then it's two knights versus knight and bad bishop. Or just knight versus bad bishop. Or queen and knight versus queen and bad bishop. And how many games have I won with the dark square blockade with black in the Marazzi or the Sicilian? It's like endless. I think like I've won more games with the bishop pair than anything else. But second to that, especially with black, I probably won more games with the black square blockade than anything else in chess. And this is very standard now. So white now plays c4. Maybe a mistake. Notice there's a game here with knight to d2. Because if white is not forced to play c4, maybe he should avoid it, committing all of his pawns to light squares. So c4 fearlessly. And now obviously, black could try to ram this pawn down, but I'm not sure that does anything. So this is a very solid move, knight a6. You could play knight d7, but maybe he wants the other knight to go to d7. Knight c5. No. That's a crazy move that happens sometimes in the Najdorf. So c4, knight a6, knight d2, and Paoli played knight d2 in a game in 1975. He was a good player. This is the plan. We're going to blockade. And by the way, here Paoli played g4. That's horrifying, but g4 is really horrifying. But he gets e4. Bishop g5, knight e4. Bishop e3, pawn e3. This is just an example, but I think this is just, dude, good luck with that, man. If he was playing a stronger player, white would have lost this game, probably. If it was like Paoli, Geller, forget about it. This is, again, a computer might hold, but this g4 doesn't help either because you're weakening a lot your king's side. So I don't think that's a good way to play. White plays bishop d2 instead. Now the knight has nowhere to go except for c1. Astrobate, knight c1. Astrobate's afraid that white might play knight c1. b6, notice the dark square blockade. We're not going too far. So this was his plan. He plays bishop c3, giving the knight to square d2 again. And now knight c5. And black just wants a nice solid dark square blockade. So if you take, we take with the b pawn. I have a question though. Serious question. How much better is black really here? I mean, fairly simplified. When does the bishop pair, I don't know, it can come back. One knight will come back to d7. White doesn't have to go Paoli with like g4 or whatever. I think that black is maybe a tiny bit better. So 0.0. But that's if you're a computer. And notice that every other line where white doesn't play perfectly, this is a more realistic, analysis. If white plays perfectly, it's 0.0. If he doesn't play perfectly, bishop pair, I thought, right. But no, because it's too closed. So white is never better here. And if white doesn't play perfectly, black is a tiny bit better. But I still think that maybe this is a good point to fucking, excuse my French, Yes, Mr. Slow, you're right, of course. F5, we would like to get an F5, bishop F6, etc., etc. But all I'm saying is, like, if white has some sense here, you know what I mean? If hindsight is 2020, you're playing Geller and you can see your tombstone in the future. This might be a good time to bail out and be like, look, I think I'm going to just try to, like, draw somehow because I don't like where this is going, you know? Maybe knight c5 would be a safer option. To leave the knight on c5, like, what are you going to do? What is he going to do? Does he think he's going to be able to, like... Yeah, he did. Oh, he did trade. Okay. Well, I'm sorry. I thought he didn't trade. I don't know why. Okay, yeah. I think this is the right decision. Maybe the computer was saying knight d2? No. Anyway, this is... Okay, no-brainer. Takes, definitely. Takes. All right, now white to play. White to play and lose. If anyone was considering knight d2, it wasn't a good move. Very weird move now. In the Nefedov school of chess. Yeah, black has the kingside majority. Mr. Slow knows what he's talking about. A queen a4 is a very bad move. You might have some justification. But in general, I think you're placing your queen on the side of the board. You have some kind of justification. Black is threatening to move the knight, play f5, use his kingside majority, trade the darks for bishops if he can, and kill white. White has a queenside majority. So, you know, can he do anything with the queenside majority? He plays queen e1, attacking the a5 pawn. Doesn't really do anything. Knight d7 now, very obviously preparing f5. So Pilnik, like, ties black down to a5. Black doesn't care. He's like, I'm just going to play f5. Now white plays bishop d1. This is a nice idea to play bishop a4. Maybe bishop a4, bishop c6. Maybe bishop c2. But here's Johnny. No, if f5, bishop a4. And this is interfering in black's position. So Geller goes a4, preventing bishop a4. And so now what does white do? Major question. What about b4? For example, this is kind of extreme. Probably not great. F4 is always a thing, and oftentimes it brings white down in these types of games. But yeah, no, it might be a good move. It depends on the situation. It's a very natural move, of course. It's lost many a game, but also might be the best move. I mean, it's hard to judge. Attacking black at the strong point, but it deserves consideration. But if you're playing like Zoltan Ribley, I think you could be in trouble. Pawn takes f4, rook takes f4, bishop f6. This is the way that Kasparov would play the black side of the Scheveningen. You know, if we can trade the darks for bishop, you're in trouble. It's very easy for white to drift into a very bad situation here. Just a couple of moves and, like, boom, boom, knight e5. And if your attack doesn't work, you're worse. So this is the idea. Super knight, limited bishop. If you don't have some kind of breakthrough with a really strong attack, you're going to be slightly worse, or maybe much more than slightly worse. So we'll see. This position has drifted to +1 for black, for example. And a lot of people might not realize they're even worse here with white. But this type of thing can happen in the Scheveningen, the Sveshnikov, a lot of different Najdorf, a lot of different openings, this type of structure. But that's black's plan, you know. The general plan is to trade the darks for bishops and then ultimately use the kingside majority if possible. So bishop c2, f5, rook d1. I don't know, this has limited use, but maybe. And now black plays the very solid g6. And yeah, we have bishop f6 now. Now it's like you still need to consider f4, but there's a few problems. If you do f4 now, I have just simply bishop f6. And if I push to e4, you know, you might have some kind of break with the g4 type of thing. I'm just saying, if anybody's thinking about f4, it has to be considered. This explains the statistics in favor of black. Yeah, basically. Because black wasn't a computer. And there's also the theory that I think, you know, oftentimes playing a position where you're like the white side of something where you have more space can actually be more difficult than playing the black side. Space is often, you know, the white side of the Sicilian often overextend yourself. Queen e2, doing nothing. Bishop f6, following a plan. What is white's plan now? He doesn't have a plan. If he has no g4, he has no f4, he has no h4. He has no plan. There's no plan. The strong side is the queen side. You have 4 on 3 over there. And so everything is shut down now. So Paoli's g4 might have been a good idea. At this point, Paoli looks like he did the right thing. White now plays f3, and that could be an idea involving g4. At least he could get some threats maybe on the white squares. Yeah, no, f3 is definitely okay. And here I would, if I were black, I would view like g4 as a strategic threat. But learning from Stockfish and such, I think it's important to be patient. So if I were black here, you obviously want to consider the move that Geller made, but you also want to consider like slower moves that are slowly building the position. So you might have a quiet move here for black of some kind. Problem is the a4 pawn. I mean, we can't go like rook b8. We can't just like drop this pawn on a4. We are sort of tied down to that pawn on a4, which is a nuisance. The knight doesn't have a good square, really. We don't want to go here because the knight is controlling e5. So I think at this point, black can think about other moves. Maybe rook f7, queen e7. But he ultimately commits to e4. So one thing I want to point out when we look at this game now and this move is that Geller was not only, and Mr. Slow knows this, he was not only, you know, known for playing the Sicilian, but he was one of the greats on the black side of the King's Indian. And coming from that school in Ukraine, the former Soviet Union, Bronstein, Geller, and these guys, the e4 is a very typical motif in the King's Indian as well. And so you'd see the sort of sweeper-sealer or sealer-sweeper type of thing with this oftentimes. Even if we're a pawn down in a position like this, we get this lock on e5. I mean, it may be a situation where even a pawn down black is clearly better. If we can blockade, let's just give you a position, for example, like this. White's a pawn up. It doesn't matter, you know, because we're almost like, you know, a pawn up for black because these pawns are frozen and white's bishop is like a pawn. So they're very strong positional motifs. e4 is possibly a pawn sacrifice just to get control of the dark squares. Could white sack exchange for? Well, I think a white should consider all possibilities. Yeah. But pawn takes e4 is the main move, right? There's also obviously bishop takes f6. White has to consider all possibilities. I mean, even g4, theoretically, could be a conceivable move here. f4, locking it seems. plausible. But there's another problem, right? A3. If white locks the position, what happens if A3? Now we have to exchange, probably. And, no, you can go pray for a draw, but it's keeping the position locked up, maybe. But anyway, okay, it's complicated. So after E4, white trades on F6. White takes to the queen. Now here, there's tension. The bishop's bad. The pawn on B2 is loose. What does white do? Takes is the obvious suggestion, which is what he does, and so Geller does the. So Arsenal fan, what are you saying? If FE4, right? If FE4, F4, rook takes F4, right? Bishop takes here. We could play bishop D4 check. Is this what you're saying? Yeah. Bishop takes D4. Rook takes. I think that's a plausible suggestion. Something like that. But I still suspect like black is probably slightly better. Yeah. It's half a pawn. Good idea though, I think that's sensing the danger before it's too late, kind of thing. If you just blindly go into this, there's gonna be no way out, which is kind of what happened. He gave up the dark squares. Takes, here takes, F4. This is what Geller wants. And Leonid Stein, another guy from Geller's generation who played the King's Indian. If you know the King's Indian, you know this pawn sack is a very common idea. With E4 takes F4, played by both Geller and Stein, and probably many others like Boleslavsky. The King's Indian was created by the Russians, the Soviets, was honed by the Soviets. That's why Bobby Fischer played the King's Indian, because he read all kinds of Soviet chess magazines. It's no coincidence, in the 50s, the Soviets were King's Indian. This is a King's Indian structure. It's a Sicilian, but it's the same thing, So rook F2, knight E5. Now it's very unpleasant for white. So unless you're a computer now, white is in a lot of trouble. This is exactly what I was talking about. White is up a pawn, who cares? It doesn't matter. So I think white is up a pawn playing for a draw at best. This is interesting now, because you're expecting like G5. F3? Nah, it's too much. So he doesn't play G5 because of probably this annoying move. Black plays Queen H4. This is kind of a cool move. Getting the queen out in front. Threatening knight to G4, obviously. He's trying to induce white to make more weaknesses. Can we induce white to make more weaknesses? So bishop D1, not making more weak. This is a good idea, right? And now, what are you menace? What do you menace? What is white threatening? G3? I think it's, getting to the point where we have to start considering G3 with white. Like just losing a pawn. No? So if G3, we can't play it right away, can we? I'm just curious, how bad is this? Takes, 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 takes. Looks bad. It's probably pretty bad. Probably lost. Takes, check. Queen G2. Doubtful that Yeah, I mean, black has 2 connected passed pawns, too. But, I mean, gotta make sure. This particular position is a forced win. Yeah, g3 is not going to cut it. Okay, so bishop d1. And now he just builds up, rook f7. Notice that the rook is defended on f7. Here, queen c2. So now black plays g5. And that enables this, by the way. You know, some kind of King's Indian mating attack. Queen c3, rook af8. And now this pawn is hanging. But there's the threat of knight g4. So h3. And just when it looks like white is sort of hanging on. Yeah, I mean, it's a King's Indian, not a Sicilian, right? It looks like a classical King's Indian. h5, bishop e2, g4. And it's over. White has a tactic here. Rook takes f4, rook takes f4, rook takes f4, rook takes f4, g3. So I guess Geller calculated this pretty thoroughly. Knight f3 check. If you take queen takes g3, it's over. So he has to move the king. So he has king g2, and then h3 falls. So what's he going to do? He has to go to f2. But now we have discoveries. All sorts of discoveries. Knight d2 check. Knight g5 check. Like every discovery in the world is possible here. Confusing position. You're looking for discoveries. The king, I don't know. I would hate to have to decide what to do here in time pressure. You have knight d4 check, okay, and then you can attack the queen. And then he has to take with the king. I was actually wondering about like king and pawn endgames, you know. I mean, are there going to be like endgames where we win the king and pawn? Let's say king here, knight. No, that could drop a pawn with check. Knight takes. King takes. I mean, there's just like this. This is over, right? So knight d4 check. He has to move the king. Where do you go? You know, you have to go to e1 or e1. He has to go to e1. Knight d4 check. Take, attacking the queen on c3. He has to take. And then you just take on e4. And now if the king attacks the rook, you're just winning, you know, with queen e7. So it's easy. But it's not the only winning move. So this turns out to be winning too. I didn't see the idea of pushing the pawn. I mean, here we have like equal material, right? It's equal material. I was looking for checks though. My first view of this position was, okay, queen h2 check, king e3, queen g1 check, king d3, and that's what I thought. What the hell do we do? So I saw this check, you know, here, queen g1 check here, and then I didn't know how exactly black is going to win. But Geller has a completely different idea. He just goes takes, and then pushes, check. So the passed pawn just crushes. This is simple. You know, he just goes through with the pawn, check, another queen. And then on king f2, only move. We just need one last move. And white's threatening queen g3 check? No, he's not. And the problem is queen h2. And so you can stop it, but you can't stop it because it's discovered check. So yeah, beautiful finish. All right, that's a good game. Thanks, Mr. Slow, for the donation, by the way. We had follows, by the way, from Redoro Boy and Ordo. Thank you guys for following. That was a really good game by Geller. I would say a very instructive and classical game. Next up is Nefedov. We've got Nefedov, Sung Prism, Arsenal Fan, and Mule Skinner. These games can be in any order, based on whether you guys are here or not. So, Arsenal Fan, any preference? Because you're the only one that's in the chat at the moment. I don't care like what order we go over these games. If you want to do your game first, that's fine. You'll wait 10 minutes. All right. In the meantime, I'll do we'll do Nefedov. Oh, Sung Prism's here. Okay, we'll do Sung Prism because Nefedov will probably come later, or maybe he's already here hiding. That's fine. It doesn't matter. We'll just do whoever's here, so you guys can leave, and then we don't have any audience. I should really do the opposite, you know. No leaving once your game is done. You're not allowed to leave until the end of the stream. So Sung Prism, you were black. I saw this was funny because you had another Bogo Indian against the other guy in the tournament. So this is your second Bogo Indian in the same tournament, and the second time that your opponent played 9-BD2. So, yeah, I mean, I always talk about this, that I have mixed results with this line with both colors. I never played well with white either. I don't think C5 is very good. So you can play B6, castles, and D5. You know, D5 is controversial because of Queen A4 check, but I still think it's not so bad. Mr. Snow is just going to take a nap on the couch. Even D5 is an interesting line. There's some other weird moves like A5 I've seen from time to time, which is hard to believe, but uh-oh. Opposite to what? Stay until you drop? Nefedov is here, of course, lurking. The whole United Kingdom contingent is here. So knight on BD2. You castled. This is a line, a great line. I mean, I think the main... I was mentioning Karpov. We were talking about Karpov. And I was saying A3, bishop takes D2 check. So queen takes D2 is played a lot. But I was kind of thinking of this line. You know, you castled first. It's slightly different. I think Karpov, for example, I mentioned Karpov playing Anderson. Karpov preferred to play B6 immediately. There's no rush to castle. So I think, yeah, it's better to play B6 first. If you want to play bishop takes D2 check and play, you know, bishop B7 like a classical kind of setup. But it's not clear if this completely equalizes for black. I don't know, man. I mean, the Bogo Indian, it may not 100% equalize. It's not so easy. So knight on BD2 is a really annoying move, but I think that white needs to have incredible good skill, though. So castles, with castles, we have ideas where the bishop sometimes can preserve itself. Well, your opponent now normally is going to play, I guess, A3 most of the time, and then we're gonna usually play bishop E7, like I was talking about, which I have played a lot of games with now. But it's risky for black. Bishop E7, E4, you play D6. This isn't easy to play because white has a very serious space edge. But I guess that's probably the best way to go. If you take now, we're going to have a slightly different version of the B6 where you're committed to castling. So queen takes D2, ideal bishop here. B6, we transpose. That would be like a typical line. Now this is like the other game you had, right? No, he took with the bishop. Your other game was bishop takes B6. Or was it bishop takes knight E4? I don't remember. You played some combination of these, or was it D5? I don't remember your exact move order. Shevchenko played the toilet variation. He's sorry about that now. Sorry, Bogos make me sleepy. Well, it's not as bad as the Caro-Kann. So, Ulf Anderson has that effect on people too. Alright, anyway. So white played g3. I mean, this is a little bit of an unusual move. He's encouraging you to play b6 now. Now we have time for b6, bishop g2. Maybe even bishop a6. Is that a line? I doubt it. Bishop g2. No one's ever played bishop a6 here. So we normally do like bishop b7. What I'm wondering is, is this one of those situations where they go like, c5, d5? Possible. But black has much more safe ways to play this. I just don't think that g3 is the acid test. I mean, it seems like a3 is best. Now you're gonna take, but I also like, as I said, I like bishop e7. All right, so g3. Now you played d5. No, you played c5 here. I don't know about c5. I would prefer b6. So this is a line 2. So what's the plan here? We're gonna play it like a hedgehog. We're gonna try to keep the bishop somehow, come back, trade pawns. The bishop on g2 is very strong. And on a3 you have to trade. Wow, there's like no games. There's like no games here. Morozevich, that's not necessarily a good thing. And a handful of others. Peter Heine Nielsen, one game back in 1993. Whoops. That's a long time ago. There's a lot of Serbian players. Arsevic, Benkovic, Bogosajevic. So c5 is not a common move here. Yeah, d5 seems to be the move, the main move. But I don't see anything wrong with transposing back to b6. This is a very safe way to play. I guess you don't really like the Queen's Indian, I take it. Kind of Queen's Indian Bogo hybrid. If you religiously don't like b6, then yeah, d5. So, okay, another idea I want to throw out there is another universal sort of idea, but this rook e8. This is being played sometimes in certain positions where you'll actually be willing to bring the bishop back to f8. I don't know if it's appropriate here, but it's possible. I've seen it played in similar positions. It's weird for a Bogo. Okay, so c5, unusual move. Now a3 calls your bluff, and now you have to trade your darks for bishop, and so that's the question. I think that white is better. I don't know which way he would take. Is there some reason white is not better here? Only slightly better. Queen takes, c takes d4. Wow. I think I've had this position, actually. Very weirdly. Is b5 a good gambit idea? Wow. That's extreme. No, Mr. Slow with a cool idea. I think that Vito Lynch would be excited for this. And maybe Andras Shadorian. They've all left the building. Of course it's possible. You can always play b5. Well, Win Hoi Min played bishop g2. I think that's our Hungarian resident grandmaster who I've faced, but he has so many names that I'm not sure. I think that's him. But it's Hoi Min usually, so the Van is like a fourth name. He's very solid. But yeah, b5 interesting. I would think this would be a more critical test. Obviously. Yeah, interesting idea, Mr. Slow. b5 possible. So b6 safer. c5. This is surprising how few games there are. So he takes. This is not dangerous, you know. D takes c5 is kind of lame. You have to consider developing more efficiently now, in Nimzo style with like knight a6. This is what the young Peter Heine Nielsen did. 1993, by the way. I suspect that would be like very early first Saturday tournament. Before my time, I think that Peter Heine Nielsen played here. He was maybe one of the in the first years where they had GM tournaments here in Budapest. 1993, very early. Started around 91, I believe, having Grandmaster tournaments in Budapest. Probably 90, 91. But I know that Peter Heine Nielsen played here, and this is very possible. But I kind of like knight a6. So anyway, bishop takes c5, standard move. Bishop g2. So we've transposed back into some other line. But d5 isn't the most ambitious move here for black. I think you have a pretty good hedgehog. The knight might be misplaced at d2 in a hedgehog type scenario. So I would be curious to look at b6. That's a problem on the diagonal though. Yeah, we can't really do a hedgehog unless there's a tactic, but there might be. See, this is the crazy thing here with this here. There's some really insane lines. If you play b6, he has this knight e5. Wow. Gelfand Matlikov. Only game where this has ever been played. But Matlikov had to do d5. I thought he was going to have some kind of trick or something, you know. I had some weird game with Roman one time where I did something like this in Blitz and sacked a pawn, you know. He got really angry. I think I beat him. He was playing on an anonymous account, Gingiashvili, and I knew it was him. I could tell, especially when he started like typing in caps and stuff. I sacked a pawn like this though. This is kind of interesting. Maybe it's not enough though. I trust Matlikov probably knows what he's doing. Anyway, that's interesting. So d5 becoming a kind of Tarrasch now. So yawn. The only thing that makes us more bored than the Bogo is the Tarrasch. No, the Tarrasch is actually kind of interesting. Now you play knight c6. This looks like a very standard position. Knight d2, Tarrasch, not very critical, probably. a3. You might have transposed to a different Bogo line, oddly enough. a5. This is all theory. And now c takes d5. So c takes d5, you have to take with the pawn. And you have a slightly worse structure. Makes sense. So the opponent here doesn't find, okay, it's a 10-minute game. He still has 10 minutes at this point. How do you guys have so much time? a3, a5, b3. Natural move. But when I saw this game, I said it looks like white has a lame ready or whatever. This I remember commenting on it when I was watching from the stream. The moment you play d4, it's like white just, what is white doing? He has a bad ready. That's exactly what I saw. So this is already huge. That big of a mistake, b3. You go from like a slight edge to a bad ready. Yeah, I mean, it looks like this move is absolutely like essential for white. And this is just stupid. Knight takes d5 was really lame. Everybody lost. You have to take back with the pawn. People are too afraid to have isolated pawns. You know what this looks like? It's like a Panov in reverse. Like you're playing the white side of a Panov now. Again, he still has redundant knights, and you're a French player. You should be fine with this. But b3 is totally lame, and obviously you don't have to do this, but it was probably good. And Chernin played b4 and Ermakov played b4. The Chernin, Ivan Sokolov, 1995. I remember it well. I played Ivan Sokolov around 1995, but it might have been a little later. I lost, of course. But b4 is a natural sort of move. That's hard to ask White to find that move in a blitz game. But if he doesn't, he's going to drift into a more and more passive position here. Here. And now I'm expecting queen c2. Idea, this diagonal. You should play h6 at some point. But you also have bishop f5. It's just, White's like one or two moves away from being like lost, basically. I've had a lot of bad readies with White. He's just millimeters from having a totally tragic position. So he plays knight to g5 instead, clinging to the e4 square. I think that black is definitely better now. Is there any instance where this is going to be a thing? f4? No. He still has b4 sacrifices, but that probably doesn't work. So all he's got now is like knight g5 to stop you from totally taking over the board. h6 feels like, okay, you don't want him playing queen c2, I guess. So bishop f5 looks good. Yeah, I get your point that it was a weird game and you didn't understand, you misevaluated. I still think that you're fine here. You got to be better in this position. Knight e4, knight e4, and now bishop e7, which I agree with. You want to dominate the knight. This doesn't look good. e7 is right. Now, you're better here. One thing that comes to mind, though, is that he has this f4, I mean, I would give it at least a sort of thought in terms of this bishop discouraging him there. But you're going to run into c5, knight d6. Some ideas there. This, I agree, is kind of natural. Another option would be to play queen e7. Probably not as stupid as it might look. I would imagine, it's an option. Because this wouldn't be such a bad scenario. I think that black is better here. You can definitely consider giving him your bad bishop. Not the light square bishop, Asterbate. You can't give him your light square bishop. Like, this is very bad. Bishop takes e4 is not really an option. I mean, it is an option, but it's not a good option. I don't mind giving him the bad bishop. But bishop e7, okay. So now he doesn't have a plan. He plays rook c1. Some ideas of c5. And you played rook c8. So you're responding kind of like robotically here with rook c8. But I think here you need to be more ambitious. So this is probably a key part of the game. I mean, what is rook c8 about? I don't like this move a lot, You're playing a modern Benoni. You're playing the white side of Benoni, and you're playing like rook c1. It looks lame. I mean, the first move that you play in such a position would be queen d7 with the idea of bishop h3, right? Very standard. If you trade his bishop off, he's definitely worse. So he'll probably play rook e1. And then you centralize your rooks. I mean, you might want to go here just to force him to go back or something. And you have f5 at some point. And if White's not careful, it's it's game over, you know, very, very quickly, because the central pawns just like smash him. So I think this is the beginning of going wrong. You know, what is Rook C8 about? I mean, seriously, what does this do? You're like protecting your knight? I mean, who cares? He's never going to give you his late score bishop. So I think this is a very bad move. I mean, if you have some weird idea to do this, Queen D7 was much better. Now you realized. So Rook C8 was a tempo loss. This is a good move, but you gave him extra time. And now Queen D2, okay. Pull the trigger. He's supporting B4. How does that work, though? You know, he's supporting B4. You go bishop H3. He could take, but he'll probably play B4. You take, and now you have Queen D5, but also just, you know, F5. The dude's in a lot of trouble. I mean, Knight C3 takes on B4. So, I really like Black's position here. Rook C8 is a minor mistake, but here, you know, this move is probably fine, but I think you're getting too routine. You have a very concrete threat, you know, not to underestimate this threat of bishop H3. Maybe in general you don't want to trade pieces, but this is a very good exchange in this situation. Plus it mobilizes your F pawn, which is a key idea. So this is too routine. B4, you know, he's got the normal Benoni thing going on, and now after A4, he's threatening B5, and you don't really have a good square to go to. You know, you can try Knight A7. It's rather strange, but the Karpovian sort of blockade of B5 might not be so stupid. Even though this looks a little weird, it might not be bad, actually. But what you did is this is a strategic catastrophe. The falling out of my chair move. Don't ever do that. You know, this is a very, very bad thing to do. You're giving up your good bishop for his knight on E4. No way that's a good exchange. Yes, his knight is strong, but I mean, come on. It also has like no squares. So I think even Knight A7, I mean, at this point, maybe he can start doing some crazy stuff like F4. It's, you know, if you're playing like Mamedyarov or something, I would seriously start to worry about it. But, you know, there could be positions where you take it and you have some tactics, like F5. If you could cement him out of the game like permanently, I could see playing bishop takes knight, you know, maybe. I mean, maybe that was your idea. That's what you ended up doing. You did F5. But it's not the same, really, because the center's not locked. He hasn't played F4, you know. If he's played F4 and he can't play F3, it's a different story. Now you really miss that white square bishop. You know, he should actually consider even bishop H1 in some positions. But, okay, whatever. Here, and now H6, kind of a cheapo, because you don't know what to do. You don't want to make more white square weaknesses when you don't have a light square bishop. I think this is the wrong idea, but understandable thing to do in time pressure, because it's an obvious idea of bishop G5. He has too many answers to that. Yeah, I mean, you're worse now, and I think, you know, you should maybe, I mean, you can even go out to H3, I don't know. Yeah, you're worse. You have no way to control it. It's like a sieve on the white squares. How are you going to protect all these white squares with no light square bishop? It's very tricky. I honestly don't know what to do. You know, I might even prefer G6 to H6. I'm not sure. I mean, both diagonals look dangerous. You obviously need a place to put your knight, you know, when it gets hit by B5. So maybe bishop F6, B5, you know, knight E7. But obviously this pawn is ramming down, you know, take, so we have to start to think about how to blockade. But obviously, you know, bishop takes E4 was your mistake. Okay, H6. And yeah, I mean, he's reacting here. He doesn't have to play H4, but it's a sensible move, I guess. And now you did B6, a tactical idea to try to fix the queen side. You have knight a5, but he's gonna have protected passer, so you're strategically like busted after this, this, and this. Um, two bishops, weaknesses on the white squares, and protected passer on c6. So, you know, now you need like a miracle somehow to like pick off his pawn chain. So otherwise this is going to kill you. Here, you know, if you keep all the pieces on the board, you might have something with that space. I do think his h4 was a little controversial. Bishop f6. So you're getting something going here. Now he can't do anything dramatic like g4, for example. It would probably weaken his kingside too much. But if he hadn't played h4, he'd have more options. You know, I think h4 wasn't really necessary. Queen a4, king h8, okay. And then he tacticked you. Wow. Queen a4, okay. So we have to get out of the pin, apparently. Not easy to do. I mean, strategically you're lost based on the knight on the side of the board, protected passer, two bishops. Can we defend somehow? Takes, e3. And you can't defend. Your knight is stuck. It's really bad. Knight b3. Right. Idea b3. But he takes with the rook. This is simpler. And then rook takes. He has the tactic. Knight b3. Oh no. I only looked at this one. You probably did as well. Yeah. So queen d7, take with check. But he has this. This is a sneaky move. Okay. Do we still have a chance to survive here? Probably not. Protected passer. I thought you would play like knight c5. But this way you keep pressure on his rook, I guess, and you keep control of a1. Are you lost here? Probably. His bishop's going to break out, you know. I mean, at the end of the day, why did you lose the game? Because you gave your white square bishop for a knight on e4. Bishops are worth more than knights. It's very easy to overestimate them. Do you know 52A STA chess team from Hungary? STE? They just made it the first division. There must be another name. Lajos. The team I'm playing for has just been moved up. The Sharkine. Sinkotard. Uh-huh. Okay. It's in the other division though, right? So yeah, we're in the Eastern Division. No, I didn't know. I didn't know about that because I didn't follow the Western one. There's two divisions in Hungary in the first division. There's a Super League, and then below that there's a first division, and they have basically all the teams separated in two parts. So there's the eastern part and the western part, and I've mostly played in a team that's in the eastern part, and I'm still in a team with the eastern part. So I didn't really follow Sinkotard. I played there in a tournament once back in like 2011. That's cool. My team is interestingly playing another team that we both were brought up. So in the first round, my team plays the other team that was brought up from the second division, Edeleng. Anyway, it's all fun. I didn't play last year, so I'm back to a new team finally for the first time. White is winning here. This is over, so it's too bad. Yeah, protected passer. That's the end of it. Nothing to see here, folks. Okay. So, yeah, I mean, Sung Prism, I think you had a good game, but, Bishop takes e4 was kind of an impulsive decision. All right, Richard Smith. Nefedov, sorry, Nefedov? No, Richard Smith. We're doing Richard Smith first. Nefedov will have to wait. No, they're in Super League. Oh, they're in the Super League. Oh, in the Super League. Okay, because a lot of people say First Division. Oh, it's in the First Division. Okay, I didn't realize. They were brought up from the Eastern. Western. I'm in the Eastern. You're in the Western. The Western is going up to the Super League. I didn't realize that. I played in the Super League 2 years ago, but our team was very, very weak. It was kind of bloody and ugly. It's not really fun getting like destroyed, playing for a team that's like getting destroyed every round. I didn't really enjoy that, although I got to play some good players. You need a competitive team. All right, so c4, knight f6, knight c3, g6, knight f3, bishop g7. This is Richard with black. All right, let's take a look. So knight c3, g6, knight f3, bishop g7. Ferentz hired some new guys. Yeah, I don't know who this Filip is. I know another Filip from Slovakia. Bishop g7, d4, castles, g3, d6. So Mr. Smith is playing the King's Indian. Mr. Smith is playing King's Indian. Well, this is an older game, you said. Oh, wow. Richie, I didn't know you played the King's Indian back. You said it was in 2018. I didn't know you were trying to play the King's Indian back there. I don't know. I'm thinking of Philip. Yeah, I'm thinking of someone else. Philip Herring. There's the other guy, Philip Herring, who's a Slovakian playing on another team in the second division, played on our team. Then there's the Philip Lucian, who's a Romanian. So I don't know this guy. But again, I didn't follow the Super League because obviously I didn't play at all last year. I was really disappointed. I had a horrible team. I played for many years, and I don't feel that they treated me properly. So I finally quit, and then I took a year off, without playing in the Hungarian team championship, at all, last year, and then I joined a new team. But I'm gonna play on a low profile board this year. Just get some easy wins and gain some rating points. Used to play anything. Okay, 2018, I mean, I can't remember anymore what's what. 2018, yeah, it was 7 years ago. 2018 was 7 years ago. I saw a photo of my kids today on Facebook from 7 years ago. It's a long time. Other thing that I noticed was I played in the Budapest Spring Open in 2018, and all the Indian kids that I played were like 2200 or like 2600 now. It's just ridiculous. I mean, I want my rating points back from these. I want my rating points back from these 2600s that drew me. I drew all these kids who are like 2600 now. I want my points back. I'm serious. They asked me why are you 2287? Well, I drew a bunch of 2600s. It's like, oh, okay. They're just farming 2600s. How do they do that? How is every 2200 Indian kid that I played in 2018 2600 now? It's easy to get to 2600. I don't understand it, man. Yeah, 2018 was a long time ago. So Bishop G2. Now, interesting suggestion. Mishra is an American kid, though. That's an American kid. He's from New Jersey, my home state. So he's kind of not a typical example. He's an American who has Indian ancestry. I don't know, maybe his parents are from India. But that kid is totally from the US. So not exactly the same. Um, he played in Budapest probably. I didn't play him. Now you played rook e8. It's a very unusual move. I was going to suggest George Moore's rather strange bishop f5 that I won against him in that weird game where I made an illegal en passant capture while he was away from the board. Bishop f5. No one ever used to do that. That's kind of a newer idea. Rook e8, though, I've never really seen anyone play. How bad can it be? Well, no, I mean, it's usual to play like c6 first, or knight c6 first, and then bishop f5. But this is kind of new that you can go bishop f5, and then if knight h4, you just go back to c8 and offer a draw. Yeah. But rook e8, okay, now your only really good plan is to play knight on bd7. You're going to have to transpose to a knight on bd7 line with e5. Castles, knight on bd7. And now, white played rook e1. Apparently it's like an inaccuracy. Of course, it's weird to play rook e1 before you even played e4. But the bigger question is, like, should white play h3, you know, e4, b3, bishop f4? There's a lot of options. Not bishop f4 here, but queen c2. Where do you play a5 or c5 and sacrifice a pawn? What do you play? e5 or c5 and sacrifice a pawn? No, you just have to play for e5 here. You just have to play for e5. That's all the only plan. Arsenal's plan is not optimal. Although white should normally play e4, we will play e5, and that's the standard. This is like the most classic fianchetto King's Indian in the world. That was very popular in the 50s and 60s. There's like a million games by players like Bronstein and Geller, Tal. You know, this is the most like standard fianchetto King's Indian line that has like tons and tons of history. Botvinnik playing white, you know. But his move is a little bit weird. He played rook e1, and that's probably suboptimal. No, knight b7 is necessary, you know, because you have to play knight b7 in order to play e5. Black would usually not play rook e8 so early. It would be more normal to go here. You go here normally, white castles, and then black plays e5, you know, so you don't even need rook e8. Oftentimes rook e8 is played next, you know, maybe here. This is a weird move. But your only good plan is e5. You know, c5 isn't great, you know, because rook e1 isn't great either. But what are you threatening, you know? You want to play a Benoni, but your d6 pawn is protected. If he plays d5, you know, do you have e6? Do you take back with a rook? Like, how do you protect this d6 pawn? And if you can't play e6, then what are you doing? You know, you're not playing the Benoni. You're playing a Schmid Benoni? Okay, if you're playing a Schmid Benoni, your knight doesn't belong here. The knight is good if the bishop's not blocked, but your bishop's blocked, so you can't trade pieces. So you have a problem. You have a bad Benoni after d5. And that's all there is to it, you know. You know you have a bad Benoni. His other option is to keep the tension, too. He can also keep the tension. But rook e1 isn't really great with keeping the tension. It doesn't make a lot of sense. So you either have you have a bad Benoni or a weird Marazzi. After, say, like, I don't know, e4, pawn takes d4, knight takes d4, a6. You have a weird Marazzi where white is better. But you should know this stuff. Anyway, c5, d5, better for white. Still, on the positive side, I don't think the fianchetto Benoni is all that great, but it's hard for black to move here. So rook b8, a reasonable move. White played now rook b1, but I don't like rook b1. You know, I mean, I think he should play Most likely a4. If he's going to play anything, he can play a4. What are you going to do? You can't get in b5, and you can't play e6. So your problem is like you have no space. Maybe you should try to play a6 or e6 anyway, somehow. I think you're going to have to try to get an e6 somehow. I mean, b6 is definitely a move, and Larson had this game, where like sometimes this is a threat. Maybe not a problem here necessarily, but bishop a6, he'll just sit there. But white has to be a very strong player. Slowly build up. It's very hard to play the white side of Fianchetto Benoni. You've got to be like extremely systematic and just processing the space like a machine. Little by little, like h3, rook b1, a4, Karpovian style. Average players can't do that. You gotta squeeze black. This is a bit of a weird move. He might be used to playing this in some other positions. But in general, the rook might lift to a3. He's playing a4. Very standard type of stuff. So a6 now it's serious. It's a benko. It's like you're going to have a benko in a minute where you didn't sack a pawn. This isn't like optional. Like white has to stop you from playing b5. It's not optional. This is like forced. He has to play a4 now. Because once you get in b5, all of a sudden it's a benko without being down a pawn. I don't like white's position at all after b5. I don't know what he's going to do. e5. He could try to cut your Benoni in half with e5, right? Can he try to do this? e5 himself? Because otherwise, don't really see what white's going to do. I guess he could like let you have the pawn on c4 temporarily. Say he plays like h3. But I mean, is he even going to be able to get it back? That's one idea. Take b4, okay. No, this is a very important move. What Lajos said. Take and b4. This is a common theme, actually. That is a good move in some lines. In this particular position, the knight on c3 is hanging. It doesn't look like black has any way to really take advantage of it. But it's possible we do. Like takes, queen a5. This might work for white. The b4 is a good plan. Let's see. C takes b, a takes b, b4. I agree. Black doesn't have to take. So he could throw in like an in-between move. For example, the knight hanging is an issue. So we have stuff like knight to g4. Possible. Exactly. There's some tactics here on this diagonal. White would have to protect. But I don't see anything devastating. I would definitely rather be black. You could even play like bishop a6 or something, probably. And you just have a pretty good benko. But I mean, this square here looks... But I guess the question would be like, if you took on b4 and he takes with a rook, this type of thing doesn't look so convincing. But yeah, you have a lot of moves. Black's very active here. All the black pieces are very active. So once b5 happens, all of a sudden, like, you're fine. How about e5? What if he tries to play e5? Maybe he has to try to do this. I don't know what the follow-up is, though. Let's say you take, he takes, you take, he takes. And then you have something like bishop f5. I think the bottom line is, like, once you get in b5, you're just better. cb5, ab5. I agree with Lajos. b4 is a reasonable try. But black's still probably better. It's all about pawn structure, right? You have the one island, this snake. That's why it's like the dragon. Whites lost their c4 pawn that was supporting the center. Now their structure is cut in half, and if you get in b4, the e4 starts to get weak. But also your pieces are a bit more coordinated, I think. The bishop on g2, this never does anything in the Benoni. You know, it's like blocked. His rook on b1 is very passive. So yeah, I mean b4 looks like the best try. Probably best try. Exactly. So we're right. Knight g4 best move, bishop d2, and then the computer confirms bishop a6 is second best. Queen b6 with cheapo threats against f2, and black is slightly better. Yeah, b3, okay. That's a totally reasonable move, but now b4 is going to come in. You can drive his knight away from controlling the center. Yeah, a good Benko without being a pawn down. Always welcome. A good Benko declined. So Arsenal played knight g4. Yeah, you're playing a Benko, not a Benoni. You turn the King's Indian into a Benko. Here, the d3 square is very weak. That was his plan, though. You know, to play bishop b2 with b3. It's a reasonable plan. I mean, trading this bishop for this bishop is a good general strategy to try to weaken your king position. Bishop b2. Now, I don't know exactly what you should do. I mean, you could have played b4, but it's a little committal. So you went here. This is an old game, by the way. So takes. He doesn't take. Why doesn't he take? He doesn't take because he doesn't want to see you unravel and have threats of bishop g4. But maybe he should still pull the trigger on it. I don't know. You also have c4 and knight d3. Yeah, it looks very good for black. Queen b6 also. Yeah, Mule Skinner is here with the next game. So taking unravels your position, and it makes the knights not redundant anymore. It's probably a good thing. Anytime you're playing the Benoni, usually trading pieces is good for black, because black has generally less space with the d5 pawn there. The side with less space benefits from exchanges. This is not a good piece in the Benoni because it blocks in your bishop on c8. So you need like bishop a6 to get in the game. Queen e2, queen a5, again, very Benko-like. Queen c2, he wasted time. He defends that guy. Bishop a6 again. This is a Benko. You should be playing the Benko, not the King's Indian, obviously. Knight takes e5, knight takes e5, and then f4. So this is what happens when you're either desperate or you have no sense of danger. There's a huge vacuum on the white king side. It's bringing back memories of like you losing to Hjartarson at the World Team Championship Seniors last year. All he needs to do now is like move his H pawn forward. Just a couple more kingside pawn moves, and it'll look like me. That's what happens on the last round in the morning when I'm not like, you know, properly rested. That's the other reason why I didn't play in the Hungarian Team Championship last year. I hate playing in the morning. Don't tell anybody. But Arsenal played a cute move now. Okay, knight d3. Fancy move syndrome. No, the more obvious move is knight to g4. But black has to deal with that, which is not very effective here. Particularly bad move, you know, knight d1 in this position. So if knight g4, the problem is he needs a way to protect against bishop d4. So I guess we would see e5. It shouldn't be enough, though. I mean, you could try it and then throw in the in-between move. You probably have like a piece sacrifice here. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, yeah, he should, yeah, maybe the sealer sweeper. You could try that. So, okay. So this is a way more disruptive move. If this works, yeah, this is really strong. That's like throwing a bomb into his position. You just threw a flashbang grenade in the middle of his position. Yeah, that's brutal. Here's an offer you can't refuse. And he did. Well, okay. Takes b4. And now we're going to take here. We're going to get our material back with a massive pass pawn and a huge initiative. Where does he go with the queen? I'm assuming like c2. Pawn takes. Bishop c1. And yeah, I mean, this is not a good benko for white. This is definitely not a good benko for white. There's this type of stuff, you know, the eating your way inside. c4. You have a lot of pressure. So beautiful move, knight d3, but I think he has to take it. And you can't not take that. That's suicide. That's suicide. He has to take it. He does this. That doesn't work. Takes, and then takes, and you win a piece. Game over. Yeah. So nothing to see here, folks. But knight d3 was a really nice move. Because I think that most people would have been lazy. Most people would have been lazy and played, you know, the safer move. They don't have to think too much. And you're right. You know, probably this isn't as good. So knight d3, he has to take. I'm just making sure there's nothing else. But it looks like you have to play b4. He has to. Are you saying, oh, you know, was Laios suggesting knight b5 for white? Knight b5 for white. Oh. Yeah. Okay, that's a good try. It's probably not enough though. Bishop takes. You know, a2 is falling. So I think it's not gonna save white ultimately. Okay, his best move, let's say queen e3. It might work. Let's see. Queen takes, bishop takes, g7, king takes. But you can't trap the black queen. You're not going to be able to trap black's queen. So it's probably not enough. Yeah, I mean it's a try, but it's still not going to be enough. I like queen d1 instead. Instead of d3, instead of e3, queen d1 defending the b3 pawn. We want to try this. Queen a2, bishop takes g7, king g7, defending b3. Still black is winning, but white has some practical chances to stay in the game. Here, do we have a way to trap the queen or force it to exchange or something? Black's winning. It's not an easy win, but black is winning. Anyway, good game, Arsenal fan. If we want to see the end, he was up a clear piece. I mean, white just folded, but yeah. For the sake of completeness, I know Asterbait loves when I play it out. I have to play the game till mate. Sort of sadistic. Yeah, this is an old game. This was an over-the-board game, like one of your first over-the-board. You had just started playing around that time. All right. So we got Nefedov, and so Nefedov finally, he had to wait forever to get his game in there. It's not against Kamsky this time. Usually Nefedov plays Kamsky, but all right, they're taking a little break from training, and now okay, guys, tomorrow is Blitz. Don't forget, if you want to hang out, I'm gonna hang out for a couple hours around 12, 1 o'clock, and we'll play some Blitz between like 1 and 3, or 12:30 and 3 tomorrow. Okay, so that's Central Eastern, whatever, Central European time. Pavel had a beautiful win against Kamsky the other day. Oh, he's being modest. He can't send in the Kamsky games every day. Forced mate. E4, C5, knight f3, E6. So we're Nefedov here. C takes C4, knight takes C4, A6. Oh no, this is like preparation for Kamsky. I told you guys you should play knight D2. Secret move. You didn't sleep until 3 a.m. yesterday. Try this against Gado. You can take him out of book with knight to D2. The anti-Kamsky variation. Okay, bishop E2. This is also anti-Kamsky. Knight d2 is legal. It is. You played knight d2 over the board? Really? It's such a rare move there. Queen c7. So Nefedov, he's trying to get his opponents to play the Najdorf. Bishop e2, he's trying to trick them to play knight f6. And then he's like, haha, I made you play the Najdorf. He did that previously. But, you know, what else can black do? I mean, okay, the normal Paulson kind of move here. Bishop e2 is not a dangerous move. It's the trick to try to transpose people into playing the Najdorf that don't know the Najdorf. And they're like unsuspecting, you know. How dangerous can it be to face Bishop e2? I mean, the problem here, okay, e2 looks, I'm sorry, e4 looks very, like, unprotected. So black has a wide variety of moves. Black could play, like, d5 if he wanted to. I mean, he could play anything. I have a perfect move for Nefedov. I'm not going to tell you guys what it is, though. If I ever get this against Nefedov, I have an idea what I'm going to try. It's probably bad, though. All right. So queen c7, knight c3. Yeah, I don't think you can play... I mean, you could try a Marazzi. That's sort of delayed Marazzi. No, I'm not telling you. You're going to have to find out. We've piqued his interest. Knight c3, bishop b4 is possible. Probably not very good for black. So he doesn't do that. I don't know who this player is, by the way. Just a random player. UKUNAD. Ukanad. Let's see if we reverse it. Danuku. No, it still doesn't sound like anything. So black plays knight to c6. Yeah, this is funny. You know, bishop b4. This could... feels like it transposes... I mean, is this like a O'Kelly or something? This is a 3-2 game, okay. So it's Nefedov. See, he's been playing very fast. That's why he plays so fast. He's always playing 3+2 now. Or 2+1. You had a game against the O'Kelly recently? I'm just wondering if it can transpose. So knight c3, knight c6. Well, this is going to transpose back into a normal con now. I had this. I think this is what... I had this against this kid. I don't remember his name now. Shit. In the IM tournament I played in February, I played this with white. It was a bad game. Both sides had chances. It was a draw. Some 2200 kid. As usual. But he was a Hungarian, so he won't be 2600 in 7 years. He'll just be like 2400. Alright, so knight c6, bishop e3. I think I castled. Geller approved. Castle seems best. Mr. Slow also knows what he's doing here. Bishop e3. Okay, that's... So after knight f6, we get castles. You know, knight f6, castles, bishop b4, knight a4. We start to see all the classical lines. But this is more new. We'll have to ask Mr. Slow for the status of this. Or my friend Joe, who plays the Khan sometimes. But, you know, Nefedov with practice against Kamsky must be like the expert on the Khan Sicilian now with white. Taimanov. So that's a Taimanov. Okay. Well, it was a Khan. Now it's a Taimanov. They're both like Soviet grandmasters, whatever. What's the difference? Well, actually, Khan probably wasn't a grandmaster, but Ilya Khan was an IM, I guess. I don't know. Not easy to get the grandmaster title. So b5, f4. That's surprising. No bishop f3. Nefedov loves to play a3 when it's not really appropriate. Too passive here. So the modern move is like this knight takes c6. Carlsen has a game. I hate playing knight takes c6 though. You need a place for mom, a place for the queen. Nefedov needs to maneuver queen e1 somehow. So if you castle, what happens? Castles, bishop b7. And then f4, or knight takes c6. So you played f4 right away. Why not? The point is you take with the queen on d4. But okay, I have some questions. Yeah, what's up with knight takes d4, bro? So what's happening here? Is this some kind of brilliant, like, idea? Knight takes d4, queen takes d4, and now b4, knight d1, or do you go to a4? So this pawn is immune. Is that what we're saying? Nefedov is not afraid to sacrifice pawns. No pawns have been harmed in the making of this video. Nefedov not afraid of knight takes d4. But strangely, if you look at the games here, white didn't win a single game. What's up with that? What's up with that? White does not win a single game in this position. So it's just harmless. Bishop b7. We transpose back into another line now. People actually castle queenside here. That's kind of crazy. Vallejo. Unsurprising, right? I'm not castling queenside. But black played bishop b7. And now bishop f3. So this is back into theory. You could castle kingside too. So the one thing that I see is this square, you know, knight a5, knight c4. I feel like there was a game in the tournament I played in February where the same kid that I played in the Sicilian had another game with someone else where almost the same thing happened as this. One of the kids played one of the other kids in the tournament I played. I play in kids tournaments. And I was watching some of the other kids play. And they had a game that was very similar to this. Where I think white actually ended up winning really convincingly. But this particular position, to me, this concerns me. You know, because I don't see how we deal with that. Yeah. Captain Kirk. Khan. So I don't get it. Why doesn't everybody play knight a5? Castles, knight c4. So this is the point. You just calmly go back to where you came from. And there's no problem. No, what could possibly go wrong? Who you found out that something could go wrong. Well, anyway, this is worth taking a look at. Black is better, apparently, according to the engine. So that could be a hole in Nefedov's repertoire. Make note, Gada Kamsky. Gada's going to be preparing for you. So this is actually the theoretical move. Rook c8. And now Pavel went to his go-to a3. I mean, a3, we could say it actually makes your queenside weaker. So this is a 3-2 game. I'm over-analyzing, I know. I'm over-analyzing. So you're supposed to play knight b3 to watch out for that knight a5. Bela has a game against Horvath Chaba from 1991. Of course, Bela always played the classical bishop e2 everything against the Sicilian. He was my friend and a former kind of neighbor of mine. So rook c8, a3, and now knight f6. And now Nefedov don't do knight takes c6. He plays e5. See, this looks good for white. That's the golden rule, right, Mr. Slow? If white gets in a favorable e5 in the e6 Sicilians, white's just better. Black just walked right into this. It's like, hey, just play e5. So he didn't know what he was doing. I mean, he has to go for this. Why not knight a5 now? What does a3 do? a3 doesn't help. You know, it probably makes it worse, though. Because if we castle, knight c4, bishop c1, now there's the problem with this. You know, we have knight takes a3. It could actually make our position worse, having played a3. So the black doesn't know what he's doing. Knight f6 is bad. What is he going to do, dude? And the guy played knight takes c6 now, but yeah, your move looks good. e5 looks good. What is black supposed to play? He has to go back to g8. That's horrible. But what are you supposed to do? You can't play knight d5. I mean, this is like lost. It's horrible. Bishop takes d5. Knight takes d4. Bishop takes... Okay. We have queen takes d4. That's maybe not so clear. We don't have to take the pawn, though. We're just like winning strategically. This is a very good position for white. So e5 looks strong. Yeah, the guy played knight g8. What the hell is he supposed to do? He has no choice. He has to play knight g8. And I'm surprised that like your advantage isn't bigger. Castles, knight takes d4, and now bishop takes d4. You could take with the queen, you know. Do you have bishop takes b7? Bishop b7, queen b7, bishop takes d4 also needs to be considered. But okay, there's nothing wrong with bishop takes d4. Bishop takes f3. Now which way do we take? Do you take with a rook? You could take with the rook. Both moves look good. Bishop c5. So you're going to get pinned after rook d1. If you take and play king h1, what does black do? If you take and play king h1, what is his next move? Because you're threatening knight here. I'm having kind of a hard time figuring out what black's supposed to do there. Maybe somebody can help me. I guess queen c6, it still looks really horrible. So honestly, yeah, bishop takes c5 check, queen takes, king h1. Can someone find a way for black to not be completely lost here? Nefedov was just playing blitz. So this is a little too routine. Knight e7. Rook f2, bishop takes d4, rook takes d4, castles, knight e4. c2 is protected. But I would think that black might have chances to defend himself here. You have a lot of pieces grouped over here, right? But f5, I think I'd rather pass on that at this point. You know, I mean, it's obviously like a really normal idea, but not at this stage of the game. I don't think that f5 is recommended. Not a move I want to play like voluntarily with black here. Feingold not impressed. Ugh. f5? Yeah. Now you got the crushing bind. And now his only chance is like knight c8 to try to unplug that knight on d6. Rook f d2. So he doesn't care. Now you're gonna sack the exchange. He can try knight c8, right? The only way to fly. Maybe black could survive, you know. Probably not. You just take and take on d7. And you're winning the endgame. But okay, he plays knight d5. You don't sack on d5. Are you serious? Ah. Takes, check. Yeah, maybe it's too loose. Check, takes. White's winning. You have some counterplay. He has some counterplay with coming in here. Nefedov didn't want to allow that. Now what are you going to do? Structural. You're going to see some Geller like attacking play now. But the knight on b6 is holding it together. He's got d7 protected. Your c-pawn's isolated. It almost looks like black is staying alive now. But he moves his knight from b6. He thought he could improve it and go to like, oh no. Yeah. The knight on b6 is the only thing keeping black alive because it's protecting d7. That's funny. And so the guy played knight a4. Oh my god. Maybe he saw it and he just thought, well, he has a check. He might have a check with the queen. Yeah, I was looking at knight b5, but this is much stronger. Because you're threatening mate. You're threatening his queen. Takes, check. And now c5 doesn't help. That would just give him queen c5, queen f8. So you just move away. Now, Nefedov, how do you decide between king h2 and king h1 in this kind of position? No, he has g6. He has g6. King h2 is better. You don't want to give him queen b1 check. He can play g6, and then you have to play like queen h4. It looks like black can't defend against the mate, though. So here, you're just winning with queen h4, right? Like, you don't need to do anything fancy. But he does something fancy anyway. There is no defense against queen h4. This is just Nefedov showing off now with rook takes h7. That's not going to qualify for like a Lichess puzzle, bro. I'm just going to tell you right now, because you have a very routine winning move there with queen h4. You're never going to make the puzzles. This is just one of the many ways to win. Rook takes h7. It has to be a force-only move. King takes h4, check. King g8, only move. And then rook d7. It is very elegant, but there was a much more smooth way to win. Not as fancy as this. Very nice, though. Okay, last game. We've got Muleskinner. And guys, this is cool because it's we get a second bonus Grandmaster game. No Kamsky today, but we have, this is against the Grandmaster and it has timestamps. It's from the last OTB tournament. Muleskinner, 90-30, Granada Open round 1. White is Grandmaster Castellanos Rodriguez. Black is Muleskinner. My only question is, if Muleskinner is here, which I'm not sure he is, 90 minutes plus a second time control or not? Is there a second time control? I'm kind of slumping in the chair. No, he didn't beat a GM. Come on, Muleskinner. Stop teasing him. No, he lost. Spoiler alert. I'm slumping in my chair, guys. Posture. Okay. Last game. No, he loses to a GM. C4, E5. And I don't know this guy Castellanos. Is Castellanos Roy or something like that? So now White plays a very strange move for a Grandmaster. D3. If it's D3, BFD. That's what I always say. Clearly not dangerous. Grandmaster trying to be, cool or something, but I don't think this is going to affect Muleskinner too much. His repertoire is too locked in, with the reverse Grand Prix attack. Nobody cares about D3. I think it probably gives black more options. We're gonna play our normal stuff. So knight c6, g3, f5, bishop g2. Curious if you know, Mule Skinner's opponent could or did, you know, does the Grandmaster prepare for his 2000 level opponent? And even could you know, how many games of Mule Skinners can you find? Probably some. Would Kamsky prepare? So does he prepare, or does he just make stuff up? Knight f6, knight c3. Now the moment of truth. Do we play, you know, the bishop e4 or bishop c5 here? No, I don't know if the Grandmaster is preparing. It's round one. It's an open. It depends on the Grandmaster. I don't know. So, do you want to play bishop c5? You're black, but he's played d3. So he goes with bishop e4. The more reliable move, I would say, right? And now white plays bishop d2. Now, as far as I recall, white, I've played this position with white and black. Yeah, I had this game with Eddie Deering like 20 years ago in a first Saturday. It must have been like 2005. 2004, it was when I moved here. Around 2004, 2005, I think like this exact line. Castles a3, take, take. I played maybe f4 pretty early with black, I think. So, yeah, it's not the greatest line for white, honestly. There was some weird move the computer was suggesting. Was it knight to d5? Yeah. I think it was this. I was like, oh, I should try this. There's another Peter Heine Nielsen game. It's something special, just a move I hadn't really ever considered. You know, it's a move that I had never really considered playing with white. I kind of didn't realize it was an option. You can play knight to d5, though not really a move that a Grandmaster wants to play against a low-rated player. So he plays a3, which is what Eddie Deering played against me, and then bishop takes c3, bishop takes c3, and now we get queen e8 exclamation point. Black has a very good score here, but it's again... Why would any like top players play necessarily d3 so early? There's possible d5, but d6 is the normal strategy. So Mule Skinner plays queen e8 immediately, gives it an exclamation point. I don't know. I mean, d6 is normal. I probably played d6. And most people play d6. My game is, I'm not high enough rated to be in the highest average rating games here, probably. Against Eddie Deering, our average rating would have been like 2400. But it's probably in there. I like black, though. Black's fine. Queen e8 is good, too, but I think you have to be careful. I had this one game where the guy, like, he went castling queenside on me when I was white in a Grand Prix attack. You could scare him out of castling kingside if you're not careful. So I think it's totally viable for white to play something like queen d2. I have played like this against Mule Skinner. I mean, Mule Skinner has practice against even me, you know, in similar lines. We had some games where it was reverse colors, and I'll do stuff like, you know, maybe not commit, think about castling queenside. I really want to play it. Yeah, queen d2 is one of the best moves. That's engine number 2 move. Interesting, the engine really likes f4, which is an idea, but it looks kind of early. So I don't know. I'm not sure if I agree. I mean, there's nothing wrong with d6, you know. I don't know if queen e8 is exclamation point, but maybe. Okay, queen d2. He does play queen d2. Wow. So now d6. And now knight h3, but knight h3 is a little awkward. Wow, I'm surprised there's as many games as there are here. So Castellanos does play kind of risky, the most sharp methodology here. Knight h3, trying to keep the tension. If you play f4, there's a game from Switzerland, 1994. You know, it's always odd, like to think of like maybe this can be played in some positions, but you have to be careful because like take, and check, and the e4 pawn can drop in some variations, like a reverse Grand Prix attack thing. So you see here, some people play b4. Craig Hanley against Winterschuh back in 2002. It's a committal move, the b4. Not really developing. And knight f3 also. That guy Glud became a GM. Lots of Danish players around here. I don't know what's going on, Mule Skinner, but all the players are Danish. You're Danish, Glud is Danish, Mikkelsen is Danish, Winterschuh is Danish. Something funny going on around here. It's like the Danish variation of the English. The hell is going on here? Queen d2, d6, now knight h3, and this is Marchea from our online tournaments. Won a game against Sagar Shah back in 2013. That's the chess-based India guy. f4. Well, he's pretty much like, you know, doubling down on protecting f4. And Black's bishop in this, like Dutch, like you said, Arsenal fan. Black's bishop in the Dutch typically wants an open diagonal. So e4 is sort of anti-positional, whereas f4 is a natural move. Sagar Shah played said move against Parlegras, but I mean Parlegras is a really well prepared player. You know, he's very scientific about his openings and stuff. So if f4 was good, I would think like he wouldn't allow it, but there's another player here who played rook b8. I mean, that's kind of a standard type of move for this variation. Another possibility is like king h8, but do you really want to be in the diagonal there? Not necessarily. h6, possible. Possible h6, maybe mopping up g5 a little. But white is likely going to play f4. So Yulskinner's like, okay, if I can play it, I'll play it. But, you know, this is now part of the idea. White isn't committed to castling kingside, and he can use the g-file to attack. That's one of the ideas with queen d2 and not castling kingside. So this bishop's open, the g-file can open, plays g takes f4. Now, have I ever had a position that went this far? Probably not. What if we go back? I never use this move order. See here? I have 4 games. I even played Lord Jesus Christ in this position. Unbelievable. So, Mule Skinner gives Queen E8 an exclamation point. But, you know, why necessarily is it better than d6, the more natural? So here, none of my opponents played knight h3. So let's say they play knight h3. We play queen e8. They play queen d2. So h6 is the best move according to Stockfish. Oh shit. Who had that idea? h6 guarding the g5, and then it's equal chances. Okay, so it looks like h6 is best. Can't say I didn't tell you so. So f4, okay, dramatic pawn sack. G takes f4. and not queen h5, but you're not attacking his king. So this is really crazy. Wow. White, I would expect white to play knight g5, right? We had to expect knight to g5. And what's the idea now? We're just playing like a long-term pawn sack. I mean, what's our follow-up here? Do we take? What the hell is going on after queen takes f4? Because it looks good, but all of a sudden there's this like bishop d5 check, which could totally turn the evaluation around. You try to do anything crazy and you get annihilated by bishop d5 check. So things are not so simple, it looks like. So I don't know what black should do. Knight g5 is definitely a possibility. But basically you attacked on the king side when he wasn't committed to castling. But he plays a really crazy move, f takes e. So I would just recapture. Wonder what Muleskinner's idea is here. I mean, I think the standard thing to do in a Grand Prix is to recapture. You keep control of this. You're still threatening his knight. What could possibly go wrong? Now he'll play knight g5 anyway. Yeah. Oh wow, queen g5. Oh shit. I didn't see this. That's a pain. That's why you need to play h6, Arsenal fan. Oh man. h6, it's a bishop, you know, surrogate. It's a surrogate bishop. Obviously the problem with h6 though is that white will be able to play f4 ultimately. What was that? What was what? I just went back. So f takes e5, bishop takes h3, bishop takes c6. Wow. Excuse me? Bishop takes c6? Opposite colored bishops. And now knight to g4, but you're not attacking his king. His king is going to escape over the other side. Check, king h8, queenside castles. So he sacks the exchange. No, I just said the h6 is a bishop surrogate. So we win an exchange with knight takes f2. One would assume this exchange sack is too dangerous. The Muleskinner takes with the rook. That's not going to cut it either. I mean, it seems like either this works or we're lost. After knight takes f2. We're lost. Yeah, I mean, we just like, I don't know, we missed the target. That's the problem with this line. You know, they castle out of it before you're really attacking. You're committed to attacking too early. Yeah, beautiful game by white. He played very nicely. That king is just entirely safe now. King b1, rook takes e2. There's a lot of pressure when you face a GM. I don't think that Muleskinner played his best here. He knows this. He knows this Grand Prix attack pretty well. On his best day, he would have put up a lot of fight against this guy, but he kind of tripped up in the opening. Queen b4 here. Very nice bishop pair. Look at that. White was not materialistic or greedy. Just kept the pressure on. It looks like even c5 is a threat now. Keeping the eye on g7. Very impressive game by white. Now we blundered with f8. But, okay. The takeaway here, I don't understand exactly why. I don't understand why queen e8 gets an exclamation point. I think it would just transpose. I wouldn't think it would matter. And now d6. Anyway, we transpose, knight h3. So instead of f4, black can play h6. This is a useful move. So let's see. h6. And the computer wants to castle with white, but that's clearly not this guy's plan. I don't think that white would castle kingside. That's playing into the attack. White is probably going to play f4. And now we have this move, knight to d4. Wow. So h6 castles, queen h5 with a ready-made attack, then f4. It's unclear. Now you have the more standard type of position, but the knight can go to g4. So this is the only mistake, really. f4. This is not good enough. G takes f4. Queen h5. So you had a move here, interestingly. Mule Skinner. There is one chance you have the move knight to d4 now. That definitely prevents queenside castling. Okay, I'm cheating with the engine. I'm just trying to think of other suggestions. So f takes e4, d takes e4. White can't castle queenside. So if he takes, it's not so easy. This is a better practical try. A way better practical try. Knight takes e5. On knight d4. Knight d4. What? You mean f takes e5? You're talking about a different position. But anyway, okay. I think that it's not a question, though. We shouldn't sack this pawn right away. There's the other game the guy played rook b8. It's like a normal move. He beat Kolovich, who's not a bad player. That's kind of a safe move. Always a standard plan, getting the rook off the long diagonal. And there you also have a6 and b5. That's kind of a normal idea. So I think that's a legit alternative. So Mule Skinner kind of committing too early with f4. I've done this myself. I lost this way myself years ago against a friend of mine. Anyway, all right, good game, guys. Good games. Not easy. You got to be psychologically, strong against the Grandmaster there, not to be intimidated and whatnot. It's not easy. I think that Mule Skinner could have played better. We'll be back tomorrow with Blitz. I'll talk to you guys then. Thanks for tuning in, Arsenal fan. Thanks for your committed. Thanks for being committed. You'll be committed soon. And I'll see you guys with Blitz, Acerbate, Mr. Coffee, everybody, Nefyadov, Sun Prism, Mule Skinner, who I don't think was here. All of you guys, thanks for tuning in, and I'll be back Friday with Blitz, and then Sunday simul as usual. Sunday 7 p.m. 6:30.